Hello friends and welcome back to the channel where today I want to talk a little bit about champion predictions for the upcoming Banquet event next month. Now I realize I'm a little late getting going on this champion prediction stuff, but with the Summoners Fest and me being busy at work, I've had like no time to record and upload videos, and I did want to get at least some predictions out there, even though a few of the champs have already been revealed so far. So just as a quick reminder, there are a total of 9 champions coming out in the Banquet event through various means here. So we have 2 champs coming from the event itself. Absorber Man, who's going to be a first-time 7-star. I am very excited for Absorbing Man as a 7-star. I ended up pulling a Mystic rank 4 gem and a Mystic Awakening gem from my rewards on the prize wheel at Summoners Fest. So both of those are being held and saved for 7-star Absorbing Man. Very excited for him. And then the other champ being paired with him is a skill champ. We'll cover that in just a moment. We also have the Banquet Chase champ, which is kind of like Jessica Jones from last year. So very small chance to pull 7-star Punisher from the Banquet Crystals, and then I think he will be a top milestone in the solo event. Punisher is getting a full rework. He has a brand new model, no new animations unfortunately, but the model looks pretty good. I did do a video on all of his abilities and had a sample fight in there on the channel while I was at Summoners Fest, so if you haven't checked that out, be sure to. Also pretty excited to get my hands on Punisher. 6-star Punisher, probably the rarest champion in the game, and the only champion that I have felt is basically unobtainable, because you need to buy like the super expensive arena crystals, which take so many of those arena token things to grind out, and you get so few chances at him a year, and the drop rate for him is incredibly low. So I'd kind of just given up on ever getting him as a 6-star. So I am very excited at the prospect of getting him as a 7-star. I do wonder if 6-star Punisher will be kind of like a reward in, like, you know, halfway through the milestones maybe. That would be really cool. Hopefully they do that. And then the remaining 6 champions are coming from the Founders Keepers box. They've done this kind of gotcha box thing. I think the last... I know they did it last year. I think they've done it for another event since then, but I can't remember. Was it Hearts of Fire maybe? I can't remember what it was. But the way that this box works is you obtain a key, and then you open the box and you pull a champion out, and that champion is kind of like canceled out of the box. So if you buy 6 keys or obtain 6 keys somehow, you will be guaranteed all 6 of the champions in the box before you pull a dupe. So really cool if you can afford getting all 6 of those keys. Now they have told us that there are 2 reworked champions in the Founders Keepers box and 4 first-time 7-stars. So they've already revealed half of the champions in the box. One of the reworks is Jane Foster. Her rework looks excellent. I'm really excited to pull her. I talked about her, I think, in the patch notes video a little bit. You know, utility, kind of iffy there, but I think that if you need a big damage Mystic champion for like a Battlegrounds nuke meta, I think Jane Foster is really going to fit that niche for you. Also, Nimrod is going to be a first-time 7-star in the Founders Keepers box. I don't really need to say anything about Nimrod. He is incredibly powerful. I am very curious to see how he fits into the meta right now, because when he came out, he was probably the most busted tech attacker in the game. He just absolutely dominated all the mutants in the game, and I feel like the mutant class has progressed a bit since he was out, and I am interested to see kind of where he fits in, if he continues to be as strong or even close to being as strong as he was when he was out as a 6-star. And then most recently, I think this was yesterday, Kabam announced that 7-star Valkyrie was going to be in the Banquet box as well. Valkyrie, incredibly powerful champion. I'm sure she scales quite well as a 7-star champion. The only thing with her is that, with the state of the AI right now, getting the defender to cooperate and sit there and hold block kind of feels like a 50-50 proposition. So, Valkyrie, when you can get her to work properly, is an incredibly strong champion, but it's not guaranteed that you're going to be getting a defender who kind of plays into what she wants them to do. So, yeah, still worth ranking up. They just changed her to give her a grit passive from her SIG. You can kind of see it in this video here. not really, doesn't really change how she works, but makes her a little bit more consistent with the rest of the champions who counter unstoppable. So if we come over to actually, let's go back to here for a second, because I do want to make just another prediction outright. So I want to start with the Founders Keepers box, the mutant champ from this box, because I don't really feel like I need much discussion on this. I think this champ is going to be the X23 rework. We voted on X23 to be buffed way back in March of this year at the International Women's Day celebration. So it's been roughly 9 months, which I think is about the time it takes for like a champion to be developed from start to finish. And I feel like we haven't heard essentially anything about this rework in that time, other than the fact that Kabam Honeydew is going to be working on it. So this feels like if we don't talk about it, maybe they'll forget about it, and then we'll surprise X23 is going to be in the Founders Keepers box. So I feel pretty confident about this one. And this also, since it's the second rework in the pool, in this box rather, that means that for my remainder of my predictions, I'm going to say that the Science and Cosmic champs are going to be first time 7 stars. And I'm also kind of working on the assumption that these champions are going to be good enough as is to release as 7 stars. So as we kind of go through these classes, you'll see like some of the champions, they were up for buffs at various points during the year. I don't think that they're going to put like a champion. I don't think they're going to put a champion in this box who like they've kind of shown is in need of a rework. So we'll kind of get to that. All right, let's go over to my my spreadsheet here. I have this is my champion spreadsheet that I use to track all of my rank ups and stuff. I have it filtered here for champions that are not yet available as 7 stars, and we can go class by class here. So let's start with the skill class, because we have a champ coming with Absorbing Man in the Banquet event. So there are a lot of decent options here. So obviously we have Valkyrie, who is, I can actually mark this as a 3 because she's available, or will be available here. So now we can rule out some of these champs, I think. So Thor Ragnarok just won a buff vote during Summoners Fest, so I feel like it's pretty much guaranteed he is not going to be the champion with Absorber Man. And there are a bunch of other champions who were up for buffs as well. Winter Soldier was up for a buff when we voted for Cyclops, so I don't think he's going to be in there as well. I feel like the champions that are good enough as is to be in a pool with Absorber Man, number 1, I feel like has to be Kingpin. Kate Bishop also up there, but I really feel like Kate Bishop is still like on the up end of like almost too busted to come out as a 7 star. Kingpin, I feel like, he's really strong with his Purify mechanic, and especially when you pair him with Hood in War, he can purify like 100%. But so many mutant defenders counter Purify directly now that I feel like he is probably in a good place, good enough to release as a 7 star. And I also feel like in terms of like hype level, the only champion not named Kate Bishop in this list who can compete with Absorber Man on levels of hype is Kingpin. So for me personally, I really think that this is going to be Kingpin. And we can take a look at some of the other options I have listed here. Aegon is kind of like a dark horse candidate for me, because we have like that the Coliseum coming out where ramp champions are really going to shine, and outside of like massive Everest content like Labyrinth, like Abyss, like Necropolis, Aegon really doesn't have much of a use. He's a decent questing champ, but you have to commit to using him for so many fights in a row to get his combo up a little bit. Putting Aegon in the box or in the event with Absorber Man, I could see them doing that for sure, just kind of ahead of Coliseum coming out. So kind of like my dark horse candidate. Agent Venom, I really feel like he needs a rework. He is very, very strong with Scorpion and Kraven on your team, arguably too strong to release as a 7 star with that team synergy still in effect. So I really don't think it's going to be him. Black Widow, I think, was also up for a buff, either with was that with the International Women's Day vote, or when we voted on like Ghost Rider and Cyclops and that. She's fine, like not a lot of meta relevance. I don't think she's good enough as is. Same thing with Daredevil, same thing with Elektra. I don't think these champs are good enough as is to put out as a 7-star. Karnak is a really interesting champion. I think Karnak is pretty good if you know how to use him well, and I think that as a 7-star he would scale pretty well too. I find him pretty frustrating to use, and so I don't really use him at all. But I do think he is a possibility for release as is. I don't think he it comes close to like hype levels of Absorbing Man though, so I feel like they'll save him for somewhere next year. We talked about Kate, we talked about Kingpin. Moon Knight, again, not really good enough as is. Squirrel Girl was up for the International Women's Day vote as well. I don't think it's going to be her. And then we come to Taskmaster. So eagle-eyed viewers of the Summoners Fest might have noticed that his portrait in-game was different than it is now. And I'm not really sure what to make of this. It could be something as simple as, there's precedent for Kabam updating portraits during the year. I think like Storm has gotten like 2 different portrait updates in the past year or so. So this could be just a portrait update. I can't recall if his model got updated. I know during the Beat the Boss finale, somebody was using, was it Ham or the other guy, was using Taskmaster, but I can't remember if the model looked different. And when we were on the dev devices at Summoners Fest, the kit for Taskmaster was not updated at all. So I really don't know if this is just like a visual update for him, or if he is planning on getting buffed later. If it's the latter, I think that he is probably a decent candidate to be released sometime next year. But as is, I don't really think Taskmaster is good enough to put out as a 7-star. And we talked about Thor, we talked about Valkyrie, and Valkyrie's already coming, of course. And we talked about Winter Soldier, yeah. So skill champion in the box with Absorber Man. I feel like this is the only choice, I feel like. There are arguments for Aegon. There is a thin argument, I think, for Kate Bishop, but I don't think that they're going to put Kate Bishop in the game until later. Kingpin feels like the most logical choice here. All right, let's move on to the other 2 champions. So let's talk about the Science Champion in the Founders Keepers box, and based again on what we talked about earlier, this is going to be a first-time available 7-star champion. So let's change my little filter here. Not many Science champs remaining in the game, and a lot of these champions are really not that good. So we can rule out Wasp because, again, she was up for the rework vote that Thor Ragnarok won during the Summoners Fest. And again, I don't think that they would put a first-time 7-star in this box, admitting that she needs a rework, essentially. A lot of champions in here are just not good. Like I said a moment ago, A-Bomb, not good. The Captain Americas are not good. Hulk is okay, but he really has very little meta relevance. Maybe when 7-star Magic is added to the game, he'll have some additional utility or worth, but I don't really feel like... I feel like he needs close to a full rework as well. So that kind of leaves Electro, who I think would be an interesting option. Very little value on attack, but obviously on defense, especially in Battlegrounds and Alliance War, he can really be irritating. And that also leaves Yellow Jacket, who was buffed a few years ago, still really isn't that good. And then we've got this guy here, Scorpion. So I'm really not sure what to think here. For me, it kind of comes down to either Electro or Scorpion. And I feel like it's the time, guys. I feel like 7-star Scorpion is going to be in this box. I feel like he is in a similar place to Nimrod, where when he came out, he was very, very strong. Had those choosable immunities, and you can kind of pick your damage type. He's very versatile, very, very powerful. And there have been some strides made in countering the power stings. So Bullseye, his Sig counters power sting and instant damage effects like that. So I feel like the game is in a decent place where Scorpion will still be a very good champion as a 7-star, but he won't be as dominant as he was maybe when he came out as 6-star. So between the two, I feel like the excitement level will be much, much higher for him. And so that's going to be my my official prediction for 7-star Science Champ in the Founders Keepers box. All right, so let's move on to the final class, which is Cosmic, and this is the most difficult class to choose from. And I feel like when I made this video last year, for whatever last box I did the prediction video for, I also struggled with the Cosmic class as well. You can see we have quite a few champions who have yet to be released as 7 stars. There are a few that I think we can rule out here. We can obviously rule out Hercules because I am unconvinced that he will ever come to the game as a 7-star at this point. He's just way too strong. I think we can also rule out Annihilus because, again, he was added to that buff vote that Thor Ragnarok won. So I don't think, again, that he's going to come out as a 7-star already in need of a rework. There are a bunch of other champions here that, are not that good or might scale okay as a 7-star but really have no relevant utility in the game right now. So like I'm looking at like Proxima Midnight. If you play her well, maybe she would be good for Colosseum, but I don't know. Ms. Marvel, I think, would probably hit very hard as a 7-star, but she has absolutely nothing going on for her outside of damage. And she just, not a very good champion overall. King Groot would be a good choice, I think, for this box, but we kind of already have a King Groot, arguably a better King Groot in Deathless King Groot in the game, so I'm not convinced he would be in there. And then they're just bad champs, Groot, Drax, are all not very good. Captain Marvel Classic is definitely not good. But there are a lot of like really interesting options here. So starting from the top here, Airwalker, I don't really feel like he's good enough as is. I know there are a couple of Airwalker fans out there. I don't really think he's that good. I wouldn't be excited to see him or pull him from this box. Black Bolt is very interesting. Black Bolt is super good with a synergy team. So I feel like if they're going to put him out as is, there needs to be a reason to use the synergies with Black Bolt. And I really just don't feel like the game is in a place where we can promote synergies. So Black Bolt, I don't think it's going to be him either. CGR and Hulkling are kind of the champions where I'm like, is the game actually ready for these two champions? And I honestly don't know. Like, both of these champions are so powerful, so meta-altering, that I think if you put them out, it really kind of puts maybe the champion design team behind the 8 ball in terms of countering them again going forward. So maybe if they already have plans to counter one or both of these champions, I could see them putting them in here. But unlike Scorpion, unlike Nimrod, I'm not convinced that the game is ready for Cosmic Ghost Rider or 7-star Hulkling. So I don't think it's either of them. We talked about Drax and Groot. Heimdall, again, just not a very good champion. Hela, not a very good champion unless you have a couple synergies with her. Icarus, I feel like he needs a full rework. He's also not very good. We talked about Ms. Marvel and King Groot. Kamala Khan, she's fine, I guess. Like, again, similar to regular Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan has good damage, I think, and probably would scale well in that department as a 7-star. But like utility wise, she just has nothing. A few buffs, poison immunity, and that's really all she's got going for her. So some interesting options here. We can kind of narrow it down to I think 2 champions here. So I think it could be Ronan. It could be the champion, and it could be Thor. Spider-Man Symbiote, again, I feel like he needs a little bit of oomph to be released as a 7-star. But these other 3 are very interesting options. Ronan has on his own, he's like not very good, but he does like that one thing well, and he does it so well that I could definitely see him being added into this box. And best of all, you really only need like a first-time dupe on him for that extra stun duration. But yeah, if you've used Ronan Cheese for any fight, you know how good he is. He's a champion that you break out, maybe like once or twice a year, unless your name is Mr. Omega Beast, and then you're playing him full time. But I could see Ronan making his way into this box, and I would be pretty excited to pull him once or twice as well. OG Thor is an interesting choice as well. Thor hits very, very hard. He's very easy to play. You get those armor breaks on your parry, and he just hits incredibly hard. I can't imagine what like a full crit special 2 with 2 armor breaks from a rank 4 Thor would look like. The argument against him, I think, is again that he has very little relevant utility outside of his damage. But then again, like Jane Foster is pretty much all damage. He has a little bit of utility in there. I feel like Thor is maybe a candidate for a rework. I'd like to see all of the OG Avengers kind of made into relevant champions again. Thor is an interesting option. I don't think it's Thor, but I think he could be him. And that kind of brings me to the champion that I think is most likely, and that is the champion. Obviously, not a lot of people use him. Suida shows him off quite a bit. He's a ramp-up champion, so I think that he would fit really, really well in the Coliseum mode that's coming out next year. A very strong champion. He's got a lot of stuff going for him that I think is really fun. And I don't think he hits like the power levels that Cosmic Ghost Rider and Hulkling reach. So I feel like the sensible choice here is the champion for the Cosmic champion in the box. We'll go ahead and write that down here. And he would be a first-time release as well. So yeah, I may be totally wrong on Cosmic, but again, I said that the Cosmic champion was definitely the most. Did I write the champions? Nice. The Cosmic champ was definitely the most difficult one to choose from. Maybe they go, balls to the wall and they put out Hulkling or CGR. Maybe we'll see. Of the two, I would prefer Hulkling. I think Hulkling is a fun champ, better two-way champ than CGR. But I think, again, I'm kind of reeling it in, making the sensible choice here and picking the champion. So just to kind of recap all of my picks for the remaining 3 champions for the Banquet. Again, I think the skill champ in the Banquet event is going to be Kingpin, who will be a first-time 7-star. And then the mutant champ for the Founders Keepers box, I think, is going to be the mysterious reworked X-23. And then we're going to be getting Scorpion as a first-time 7-star for the Science champ, and then the champion as a first-time Cosmic in the box. So yeah, we'll see. Those are my official predictions. We'll see how many I get right, how many I get wrong. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about these. If you disagree with any of my picks, please let me know who you think will be the champions represented in the Founders Keepers box and the Banquet event. And as usual, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.